Hi, everyone. Welcome to Hillcrest Tennis Live Series. Today we are going to be talking about um, the importance of taking time away from your opponent and then also giving yourself time when you're in a point situation. So um, first off, let's talk about taking time away from your opponent. So um, lately in a lot of our clinics we've been talking about transitioning forward from the baseline to the net, specifically when we're playing doubles. And because a lot of times we hit and we wait and we kind of spectate to see what what our shot has done and then also what our opponent is doing, rather than thinking a step ahead and trying to have that mentality of taking the ball earlier off of the bounce, and then also having that mentality of I'm going to hit a shot and then I'm going to come in. So you're making that decisive decision to take time away from your opponent. And so obviously, time is extremely valuable, especially if the ball is being hit at a solid pace. So, if you're coming forward, you're getting closer to your opponent and you're getting closer to the net. So, your time is also shortened, but you are also putting pressure on your opponent. So, just remembering that by taking time away from your opponent, you're now creating pressure to make them hit a shot that they don't want to hit. And so that's the advantage of taking that initiative and moving forward to the net. Because a lot of times we get stuck playing in this no man's land area, and then we get stuck hitting balls at our ankles. Well, rather than playing in this area, we want to be transitioning through and taking time away from our opponent, because the more we hang out here, the less effective we are. So it's really just a mentality and a decision that you have to make early on in the point, and recognizing that you need to move forward and you need to be aggressive. And today in one of our clinics, we kind of discussed, you have to be decisive, and you have to recognize the patterns of play in which you're getting into when you're playing in a match. We can't play mindless tennis. We have to make sure that we are purposeful in our shot selection. We're purposeful in our positioning on the court, and we are deliberate about taking time away from your opponent and putting pressure on them. Pressure is a good thing. Now, if we reverse that and we're looking at it from the standpoint of we are on the defense, not on the offense, now we need to look at it as to how do we give ourselves time if we have somebody that is putting pressure on us. And so sometimes we'll say, it's kind of like when you're playing, especially at the start of a point, it's basically neutral. And so it's a contest of who can win the battle first and who can get in that position of attacking and taking time away from your opponent. Now, if you are in the situation that you are the one on the defense, that you've been pushed off of your offensive position, in a singles example, or even in doubles, when we have, so that would be both players would be up at the net. There's this immense amount of pressure put on the people on the baseline, or when you're staggered, to hit past them. That's the wrong mindset, wrong mentality to have. When you have two up, I always like to say, don't try and hit past them, just hit through them. So make a good solid shot up the middle, and the first shot will not be a winner right off the bat. It is your passing, especially your first passing shot. It is a shot to get yourself back into position. It's to try and neutralize the people at the net. So you want to hit, I always like to say, down the middle. It creates confusion, and then it also brings the ball to the middle of the court. So then it neutralizes the people at the net, and it takes their angle away. If we try and hit down the line, or sometimes even cross court, that again opens up an angle for the people at the net. So, and one of the other things that we need to think about is, instead of taking that step back off on our back foot, we want to be taking that ball earlier, so that we're, again, trying to take time away from your opponent. Even though they're pushing you, they're being the aggressor, and you're on the baseline and you're being pushed back, you want to try and take that ball as early as possible, because, is the further back you get and the more negative momentum we're moving backwards, now we've fallen into that trap, into that pattern of the defensive mode. And so when I was playing in college, we would always say, anybody that can dictate play within the middle of the court, you're going to dictate play, and you will be effective, because one, you're stepping into the court, you're putting pressure on your opponent, you're taking time away from them, and then you're also able to dictate where you want your opponent to move. And that's the key. That is our key that we're looking for in a lot of our clinics. We're really trying to work on being able to, be the team that is dictating play with our shot selection, dictating play with our positioning, because to me, that is the biggest key that we've been missing. And if we can master those specific skills, I think we'll be able to have a strong season starting in April. So, another way that we can give ourselves time if we're in a defensive position is height. So height over the net. So the higher the ball, the more time you give yourself to get into position. Now, if you are on the receiving end of that higher ball and you want to dictate play and you want to take time away from your opponent, that's where we want to step in, and it goes back to dictating play from the middle of the court. We want to take that ball out of the air, because once you let that ball drop, now they have time to get back into position. So if you're playing somebody that has a high loopier ball, you want to take it either off of the bounce, or you want to try and take that ball out of the air. It takes time away from your opponent, and then it also eliminates the shot above your shoulder. A lot of times we get sucked into that higher ball, and then we're hitting above our shoulder, and so that's in our weaker position and not in our ideal strike zone. So really trying to recognize, and this kind of goes back to the whole tennis IQ, trying to recognize each situation and trying to figure out what our options are within each situation. Because that's really the key, is to be prepared for all situations and understand where to hit the ball and how to hit the ball in each situation that is presented to us on the court. And the idea is that we're doing this over and over and over again until it becomes automatic, until it becomes a no-brainer, so to speak. So you don't have to think about it. It becomes a machine. So you don't have to think about what you're doing. You just do it because you understand each situation. And I think it's just an extremely important concept, taking time away from your opponent, but also recognizing when it's time for you to give yourself time, so that you can stay in the point, so that you can give yourself an opportunity to get back into the point. And also, I always like to say, give your opponent the opportunity to miss. So if we can figure out how to get into those patterns of play where we're dictating and we're taking time away from our opponent, that's when we're going to be successful. Anyway, I hope this helps. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you next week.